You are in a small chamber. As I said before, there's 6 beds. It was clearly already set up. It's about 25 foot across. It's a small table and chairs in the center. The beds are fairly lightweight, but well made and comfortable. All pristine and clean. The door to the chamber itself, 1 second. Just give me a second while I try to tell, there, do it Saturday. Friggin' Windows trying to tell me it wants to update now in the middle of the show. I'm going to do this at 8:25, sod you. No, you're not. Sorry about that, to break the immersion. Yeah, so the door, basically the door is closed. You're in this small room, but you know there are 2 guards who stand with elvish long blades and shields with bows slung over their backs, only a few feet outside the door in the corridor. Now, of course, you have your 6th member of your party with you.
5.5.
Which I believe you chose to name Ned. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, can you find an icon for like a South Park baby and just have it on the map? I'm kidding.
Oh, he didn't like that. Oh, he didn't like that.
Doesn't like South Park. Okay.
I'm just gonna stare at Physic holding the baby while we're sitting there.
Okay.
Just be like, what do you think they're gonna do with that baby? Do you think they know anything about it?
Muted, Physic.
It's hard to say.
Apparently,
didn't
because you're
seem to know
muted.
anything about it. Yeah, there you go. Apparently, they didn't seem to know anything about the tree or anything, and the idea of it was kind of a surprise to them.
Well, perhaps we can unload the baby.
The idea has crossed my mind. It's probably safest here.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be safest here rather than traveling around with us out there.
Yeah.
So
if they're willing to take it. Otherwise...
Well, we could always just leave it behind.
But didn't one of them put a sword up to the baby when we were getting captured?
Yes, but I think that was more scare tactics than anything. They don't know what we are.
Well, they didn't know what you
You're all
were.
assuming they're going to let us go.
It's true. We don't really know what they want to do with us.
Either way, we're going to get ourselves out of here. Whether they let us go or not.
That's some forward thinking.
How do you propose we do that, Josh?
I don't know. We just got here a minute ago. You need to give me a little time to just maybe think of a plan, all right?
Okay.
I'm just saying we have an important mission to do. A lot of gold on the table waiting for us. So eventually we're going to need to get out of here and continue on.
They don't seem to be a fan of our magic abilities, so I have a feeling they don't have any healers here. Maybe we could use our powers to heal some of their sick, and maybe they'll just let us go.
The huntress from before, when she howled for a companion, seemed to be using a magical effect to amplify her voice. And she said that she was familiar with magics, so
But
I don't know.
They don't like it, right?
I think it's just they understand the threat it could possibly pose, and not knowing what kind of spell you're casting, who you are, what you're doing there, and we did get her by surprise, regrettably.
It's true. I used to follow a pretty nasty god with some very demeaning spells. I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, she seemed used to dealing with the orcs. Asked us if we were orcs, and then realized we weren't. So,
she didn't seem very happy to know that some of you could speak Orcish. Is it truly the only language we could negotiate with them in? Doesn't exactly say, hey, we're friendly if we're speaking that vile language.
it was It's a language of a common enemy. We were lucky she knew it. It's all we have for now.
Speak Elven. Elvish? Elven? I don't know. I only know Common. I just grew up in Asmire.
I only know Dorkish because there's a Dundee.
Rochionu, thanks for hitting the sub button, buddy. Take your pants off, hit the hype.
Well, maybe their leader is more wise and can speak in other tongues.
Perhaps.
Hope so.
For the time being, they're showing us some, well, I mean, it's not the finest room, but it's better than where I usually sleep in the city.
Your newfound friend is beginning to get a bit squirmy again, by the way.
I'll check on him.
It's just like...
In the ways.
Mind if I try holding him? I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna go ahead and walk the baby over. I'm just thinking, I can't possibly be the mom, because if I was the mom, this would be embarrassing. I'm small. The baby's gonna be bigger than me in like 3 weeks.
That's funny.
And I'm just gonna like, be good, Ned. Be good. Don't.
Thank you. I'm gonna take the baby in my arms and hold him.
He doesn't seem to be too deterred at this point. He does seem to kind of keep wincing, and he's becoming very fussy, though, that's for sure.
It's the cutest little nose I've seen.
How long has it been since he was fed?
A few hours.
Long enough for a baby.
Hey, they need to be fed frequent and often.
Yeah. I think that's what it says on the back label. I'm gonna sit down at the chair here and start preparing another Baba.
Okay, so another good berry juice cocktail.
Yeah.
All right.
So Physic, what happened to that tree?
I don't know. It seemed to be completely natural in the way it was growing, and the soil around it seemed new and intentional.
Just like the baby.
Just like yeah, oddly. Circles of stones are frequently used as a protective means or some sort of symbolic thing, and I'm thinking it might have had some kind of link to the child. Well, evidently when we took the child, the tree was gone, so I'd assume it's pretty straightforward there, but it's not something that makes any natural sense, and when we tried to detect the magic on it, it wasn't there. It's confusing.
Yeah, I mean, I never saw a tree that big and red.
Yeah, it was a happy tree. Most of those are little.
All right.
Someone has some very powerful magic. Then
you've got your new baby bottle set up.
Would this be more likened to the works of a god or a goddess turning to marigold?
Well, can I do a religion check?
For specifically what?
If I know anything about gods or goddesses, and their
and babies.
To move trees,
Is there any
babies.
reference between gods, goddesses, and babies? You can make a dice roll, yeah.
That was the most reluctant way to say that.
So,
what do I know?
with a 3, tantamount to nothing comes to mind.
Awesome.
You can think of no direct tie-in with any gods or religions that you're aware of that would deposit small human infants in the forest for any reason.
Going to be quite frank with you, I only know of 2 gods, and neither of them would do this, so...
Yeah. And I'm only religious by extension.
How's that possible?
It's complicated. Relationships are hard. I'm gonna pull out my old book and start writing in it again.
Okay.
Okay.
What's the other god that you know?
I don't
The
really
other
like
one.
to speak his name.
Well, maybe you could whisper it.
You write it
Zilchus?
What?
Signs?
I used to follow a god named Zilchus. He was the god of wealth and power and influence.
Yeah?
I know
Keep
that's
going.
very opposite of what I am. Yeah, don't give me that smile. He was absolutely awful. I really believed in him. Turns out it was just greedy.
So did you do any of these greedy acts that maybe he asked you to do?
Of course I did. I helped my father, he was a businessman and a political figure, and I helped persuade many people. Don't want to talk about it.
So you're not the goody two-shoes that you make yourself out to be, eh?
I
Alright.
am. I've
Sure,
changed
of course.
my ways.
Of course you have, yeah.
I've made a vow of poverty and will not take into my pocket any more gold than I need.
You hear a polite knocking on the door.
Rush, you're closest.
I got
I'm gonna hand the
baby.
bottle over. I'm handing the bottle over to the.
Come in.
Okay, you hear the door kind of slowly unlatch, and it opens just wide enough for a head to peer through. You see what appears to be definitely a more mature looking elf. He's got long, straight, almost purplish black hair. He's got several scratches, like right down his face, over his, kind of down his forehead and barely coming down to his right eye. He leans in and surprisingly in common says, am I intruding in any way? I think
no.
that's right.
Not as much as we are.
We're your guests, please.
Guess, aren't we prisoners?
With that, he steps inside the door and closes it quietly behind him.
Kind of like hold the baby protectively.
As I am old enough to remember and speak the language of humankind, it was requested that I come and spoke for you. Or act as spokesperson for you. Yes, act as spokesperson.
Your common is quite good.
I spoke it frequently a long time ago, but it has been centuries since I have had call to use it.
Century? How old are you?
In human years, I would be 764.
Oh my god.
Which one?
The one I follow! And what is your position here in this?
My
Nice.
name is Castian Tunavir. I am an advisor and scholar.
Neat.
The young she-elf that met you in the forest, Alessi Adiel, she is quite a skilled tracker. You are all most wise to have surrendered yourselves peacefully.
It was a pretty easy decision. Jeez.
We shouldn't have
Nothing else.
approached her in the first place.
I could have gotten the drop on her.
What's her name
I-
again?
Her name?
Yes, you're Cassian?
Castian, yes.
Castian.
And her name is Alessi Adiel.
I wouldn't normally take it upon fortune to take it into custody, but as things were going, I'm actually grateful that we were arrested in this way.
You're grateful?
Yes, I feel much safer here.
Well, you are indeed safe from most of the denizens of the forest beneath, for sure.
Yeah, we don't know how to avoid that. The
It
denizens, as it were.
cannot be avoided other than, ironically, by avoiding them. As you have already encountered with others of my kind, we tend to learn to move quietly and silently and unseen. It is the best way.
I agree.
But then, of course, even a young elf that goes below the forest and into the forest below the city has had decades to practice and perfect this talent.
Are there many settlements of your kind here?
There are none other that we are aware of.
Wow. So how many are you here then?
In truth, maybe 150 or so. We are a small group of people. Unfortunately, we do not give birth to young very often. And the forest being as dangerous as it is, sometimes our numbers can dwindle significantly.
And, excuse me, are there any other settlements of other folk of your that you get along with?
That we find as friends, do you mean?
Or at least, yeah.
There are not.
No other civilizations of any.
If
friendly.
you can consider orcish kind and goblins of any civilization, there are numerous of those. I have heard rumors of strange tribes of other humanoids far to the east, but I travel not much from this city itself. Perhaps you may be fortunate enough to speak to Galen. She has traveled further than just about anybody in this city.
Is that the person who we'll be meeting with today?
You will not be meeting with anybody today. They asked me to come here and let you know that there will be deliberations and that you may be called upon tomorrow, but to offer you the opportunity to rest here and feel safe. Your
safe.
additional belongings, they tell me, have been secured away and should, of course, be returned to you if it is decided that that is a favorable thing for us to do.
Now that we have you here, did you ever see a flying ship get knocked down from the sky?
I did not know.
Somebody else did though, you've heard of it?
These questions you should probably save for when you are standing in front of Lord Larethiel. Lord Eruthian Larethiel is our current leader and lord. He is older than most, but younger than myself.
And we won't be called upon until tomorrow.
Yes. You see, I understand with you humans having such a short life, you are very hasty and do things quickly. We have more time and tend to take more caution in our deliberations.
That is understandable. We are trying to rescue someone who is in danger, so time is of more of an essence than us.
I totally understand. I would advise you to worry more considerably about your own well-being at this moment.
not sure we can really do anything about it at this point, so
Well, this is the truth. There is little you can do until you are, if you are freed from our settlement.
Would there be a thing that you would deem would make us not worth leaving or allowed to leave?
Well, you are quite an enigma to us. You are the first of your kind that we have seen in over 100 years, and you should stumble across our settlement, or so close to it. There are many questions to be raised for your motives, or what indeed is the truth, or what may be considered false. So, these are things that are being debated as we speak. As I mentioned, as I do speak the language, as does Lord Larithiel, I would be spokesman for you. Is this the correct term? A person that would advocate on your behalf?
Yes.
More or
yes,
less,
that's
translator,
correct.
advocator, whatever.
Of which, if you have questions, I am happy to answer those that I can, that pertain specifically to you being here and our guests. And when we are meeting with Lord Eruthian Larithiel, anything that you say, I will repeat word for word in the Elvish tongue for all to hear.
So we should prepare what we are to say to avoid
I
confusion.
myself have one curiosity, if I may be indulged.
of course.
While we know that it has been close to 1,000 years since humankind lived in these forests or in these settlements, and they have changed greatly, and may I say, without offense, for the better, in some ways, for their absence. We have heard tell and rumor that there are other elves, albeit a handful, that live in some of the human settlements. Is this true?
Yes. It is.
It is strange to us that they can find contentment amongst such urban and cluttered and claustrophobic environments.
You get it. Oh man. That's been my headache for the past. How long have I been alive?
And you are you a halfling or a gnome?
I'm a gnome.
I mean no offense, but
It's
it's been a
understandable.
very long time since I have seen either.
I've been confused as a baby. I'm used to it by now.
And yes, this. Speaking of babies,
This baby.
I overheard Alessi mention that you claim to have found a human child in the forest beneath a great tree, and that when you took her to see this tree, it was no longer there. But in
Yes.
her words, she said that the stones were there as you described, and the earth seemed disturbed, so she believed that the tree was there, but it isn't now.
That is the case. Yes.
Do you have any thought or explanation to this tree, or to the arrival of this strange child?
When we found the child, we were hesitant because we had been tried by the Vale lands here before. That our word for this territory. We
Yes, we were
approached-
hesitant.
We approached very cautiously and tried to detect any enchantments or magics that were casted on it, and couldn't find any. It all appeared to be unnaturally natural, as it were.
I see. Which amongst you possess a gift for the arcane?
I dabble. But Marigold here is a priestess. She deals in holy magics, and Rush here is a talented sorcerer.
Sorcerer.
With an interesting flair, yeah.
Yes, this is of interest to me, for sure. I myself practice in the arcane arts, but I prefer the study of my knowledge to come from tombs of history and research.
So you're a wizard.
You could, I suppose, say that in a way.
Alessi seems like she did not like magic. Is that frowned upon in this community?
Far from it. We embrace it. We also respect the power that can be summoned and wielded with magics, and in the hands of somebody seemingly hostile, it would be ill-advised to give them an opportunity to, conjure or abjurate any kind of magics that could be considered offensive. You see, you must understand, just about everything we encounter below our town of simple huts up here in the forest, up in the trees, is hostile to us. It is usual to expect that anything strange would also be hostile. And
So it would be safe for you to logically deduce that we are not a threat to you, considering we approached one of your kinds alone and did not engage, even though we were engaged upon.
well,
And carry a child. And then we surrendered without a fight or any
this
bloodshed.
This is not how Alessi sees things. In her mind, she was ambushed, and when she stood in readiness and attempted to communicate, one of you began to use your magical arts. She assumed that it would be hostile and fired a warning shot, of which was not heeded.
What you get for assuming?
So therefore, she did what she felt was the only thing possible to try to stop this magic from being summoned or cast before it had chance to do anything.
And if we are to say with utter honesty that my friend Marigold here, with the baby in her hand no less, was just trying to understand Alessi's words, would you believe us or her accounts?
At this time, being a man of research and logic, I could not honestly answer that with any truthful knowledge to one way or the other. At this point, I find myself gnostic to the entire concept.
I
So-
would agree with Alessi's reaction.
I would.
You don't
I would,
survive down here from waiting to see what happens.
That is very true. But
And this is how we survive.
but
If in doubt, we must defend ourselves.
what did happen, and Alessi could probably back this up as it is the truth. All the attacks that occurred were from Alessi to us. Now I understand her rushing, even though that is a human thing, to a conclusion.
Well,
You could see that we did nothing after her warning shot and follow-up shot. My friend over here was wounded in the head. He did not attack him at all himself.
but
Hello.
from as I understand it, he attempted to rush towards her.
Well, I
And
wouldn't necessarily say
after
rush.
already considering, you must understand, once again, as I explain, the assumption was you had hostile intentions. She was by herself, outnumbered. As you continued to advance upon her, she continued to act in defense. She says that she attempted to dissuade you from doing so, but your lack of understanding or ability to communicate initially was unfortunate. However, of course, at some point you did indeed surrender, but not until she had assistance. Therefore, it could be deemed that...
That is actually not true. She called for assistance, and we were in plain sight for several minutes, doing nothing until her friends came.
And then you surrendered your weapons, as she says.
Well, we were in surrender at that point when she was still outnumbered, because we did nothing in
And
clear view.
this is why we are having the discussion. These are the things that you must try to explain to Lord Aruthian.
Well, I understand. I just... being a spokesperson,
Yes.
being an advocate for, kind of would be nice if you saw what you could see our point of view.
Well, this is why we are here. I am trying to understand. I understand where Alessi is coming from, and I am trying to understand where you are coming from.
Fair enough. Thank you.
We made a mistake.
Mistakes happen. Unfortunately, in these forests and in these dark lands, mistakes quite often are fatal.
Yes.
But I can assure you, we are not a hostile people unless it is necessary, but we are indeed a very cautious people. And we do not take chances.
And I think a lot of this conversation boils down to we have just now come back from down there, and we are a hasty bunch of quick thinkers and reactors, and into a society which, as you've noted, is much slower and more cautious towards making decisions.
Smarter.
Perhaps in many ways, yes.
It is a luxury when you are such as myself that have seen 8 centuries of life, and you are indeed a scholar, that knowledge is something you continually gain. I will say, however, even there are still many amongst our brethren here that while they have lived long and should know much, still seem to lack a surprising amount of rational sense.
You don't say.
Well, I think we will wait until we are summoned and clear this up, and you will see what our intention is.
I have no doubts at all that what Alessi had done was, in her mind, and very, very reasonably, a intelligent and wise thing to do. To err on the side of caution is to save your life for another day.
I'm just gonna stare at Physic when he says this.
And I guess the point we're bringing at is that now that that's behind us, looking forward as potentially I'd assume like to be, I'm kind of looking around like friends to you.
You say it's behind you, but you have yet to stand before Lord Larithiel.
Yes, and
if
that's
he
the
decides to permit you to leave here, then it will be behind us. As I said, I am here to advocate on your behalf because you are incapable of speaking the Elvish tongue. I am also here to ensure that you do not fall foul to insults or failure to follow appropriate custom. So I should educate you in the correct way to behave.
Yes, that'd be much appreciated. Scholar to scholar.
Yes,
I'm just gonna flip through books, get new page ready. New page. Oh.
The way that Elvish society parlays is both sides are given an opportunity to speak. There are expected to be no interruptions. This is considered a grave insult, especially with the more majestic amongst us. Again, understanding that we have time. There is no need to interrupt. You will have a turn to speak. This can sometimes be difficult, even for a patient, one such as ourselves. But nonetheless, whatever is raised, you will have a chance to address. If anything, I can say that Lord Aruthian is a very methodical and... what word would you use? Tempered man of leadership. But you must also understand he only has our best interests at heart. While he will mean no unnecessary harm to you, if he feels that for our own safety you must not be permitted to leave or offer some other punishment, it will probably be more based on what is best for all here in this city, other than what may necessarily seem fair or just to you. So please bear that in mind. When you stand before him to explain yourselves, you must convince him that you meant no harm to us. You must convince him that your intentions are truthful and honorable, and that there is nothing for us to fear from you. And more importantly, you must convince him that should we let you leave, that it would not be an unwise decision for us in the future.
Are there different dialects of your language?
Not amongst us. Our dialect is the same. But I have read manuscripts and tomes that would suggest that our people that have created civilizations in other parts of the world speak a different dialect than us. I only know the dialect of my people. I know the common tongue because when I was very young, me and my late father he was an emissary to one of the last human settlements. I traveled with him from time to time, and of course I learned this language. Some of the words that you speak do not directly translate to some of the things that we say, and vice versa. It's sometimes difficult to say something in Elvish and then translate it to your language exactly. But again, this is why you have me, to try and at least interpret as best as possible in most cases.
So I'm going to repeat what few words I remember from Charybdis to see if he recognizes
Thanks for the resub,
them.
buddy. Much love. Take your pants off. Hit the hype.
Thanks, no.
Thanks, no.
Woohoo!
Sorry? What was that?
I'm going to repeat what few words that I can remember from Charybdis to see if he recognizes any of them.
Alright. Okay, yeah, he doesn't. It's definitely a different dialect, it would seem. He says, well, if you have anything you wish to ask me, please do so now. If not, I shall retire and I'll be back here in the morning. If I do not come and collect you, you will at least find me present when you are taken before Lord Aruthian.
Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you for...
Very quick question. If you say you don't reproduce much, you don't have many children, would you want one?
I was literally going to say the same.
He kind of looks at you and he says,
Marigold, that's kind of straightforward. Just like
This-
There's no really way
this
to
would be
say it.
another entirely different circumstance and situation to discuss with Lord Aruthian.
Perhaps we should
Right.
probably get on
oh,
their
you
good
guys
side
are talking about
first.
the Oh,
Yes. I can tell you for sure that everybody here are of the same race. There is no interracial mixation here inside our society, and I do not know that taking a human child in would be something that would be welcomed publicly. But it is not my decision to say. You shall have to discuss that with Lord Aruthian when you are summoned.
Fair enough.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Cassian.
He says, well, you enjoy yourselves. Rest as well you can. No harm will befall you this evening. That I can promise you.
I look forward to a day where perhaps we could share in studies.
Well, he kind of like nods and smiles and slowly backs out of the door and closes it behind him.
Marigolds.
Quite nice. Well,
We're not even sure we're going to make it out of this alive, and you're already trying to unload a baby?
if we do end up dying, I maybe just wanted to know if they even want this baby. Just going to toss it out.
I was going to say the exact same thing, to be honest.
Josh knows what I'm talking about.
I do know what you're talking about, yeah.
We don't
So
agree
I
on
feel
much,
like we
but
need to breach the subject of if we do make it out of this.
Giant baby.
yes.
Have a baby. There.
Thanks.
How are we going to continue forward?
With this baby?
We need to get our story straight. I mean, we all were there, so it should be straightforward, but it'd still be good to prepare.
I do have one issue with how the conversation with Castian went.
I have one too. Surprised or not.
Do you wish to go first,
That's
Marigold?
fine, you can go first.
I will just say this. I don't think we made a single mistake when we dealt with Alessi.
Really?
No.
Why's that?
We have been attacked by a variety of things down here since we've been down here. It was in our strategic best interest to do what Jash did, circling around, trying to get the jump
We shouldn't have
on.
approached her in the first place.
I beg to differ. I think it was necessary that we approached her.
And she was completely right to attack us.
I will not disagree with that. She was entirely right to what she did. That is true. But I do not think what we did was a mistake. I did not climb that tree to spy on a naked lady.
But you can see from her point of view how it might...
Rush, I can see from her point of view. That's my point. I see from her point of view, but we all need to see from our point of view. What we did was justified, based on what has happened to us.
So what you're saying is, we didn't do anything wrong, and she didn't do anything wrong.
Correct.
That's the point we
We're
need to go
just
across.
starting
All right.
a tree village
out to
right
life.
now, instead of trying to get to Lady Cecilia as fast as possible.
Well, in order to get to Lady Cece, we need to talk to people who kind of look human for some information, Rush. Don't you think?
The thing is, can we agree that most of the things down under the veil want to kill us?
Absolutely, yes.
And
The
we
elves are in agreement there.
possibly found one that could end up helping us.
Then can we please be more cautious about this? I don't want to lose more people.
I climbed that tree to be cautious. That was my intention. I did not climb the tree because I was like, ooh, boobies. I climbed the tree because there was something there.
Come
that
on, maybe
may
just a
or may
little bit,
not-
huh?
We're not
on.
regarding things with the danger that we should be.
Well, it seems to me, and I'm not as smart as some of the people here in this room, but it seems to me that we were trying to be as cautious as possible. She maybe took it as a different way, but it's going to get sorted out here. As soon as they call us, we'll tell our story, tell them that no harm befell the lady, and we'll be on our way.
How many times are we going to go through this on the way to find her?
As many as
As
it
many
takes.
as it takes.
So we're going to keep making the same mistakes.
But I don't think there were mistakes.
It wasn't a mistake.
It was just a miscommunication, a misinterpretation that will get sorted out here. I think.
You
I
don't
think
think
that's-
there's something that needs to change? and the way we're doing things. You're okay with us being held up over and over and over.
Well, what would you suggest? Give me
Safety into account for one.
Okay, give me a specific example of what you would have done different and what we should do from here on out.
We should not approach people like this. She was by herself. We don't know her from Adam.
So you're thinking that there's absolutely nothing down here that may be able to aid us, that may know the area better than us who have never been down here, that we shouldn't look for help from other seemingly, possibly helpful people, or elves in this case. I think
we need to be smarter about it.
I think we're way out of our element, and I think that we need to, if we are going to be successful, we need to take help from others down here. And I think this was a start. Did it work out the exact way we thought it was going to? And I'm going to look around the room and say, no, but we're safe, we're alive, and maybe we can get a lead onto where we need to go next. I think
and
those
that
are all
is
positive
now.
things. Right,
I'm talking about
well,
That's
yeah,
not
so in the
future.
future, if we can get in the same position to be beneficial, I'm going to do it again.
Listen, here's what I think. Rush, clearly you disagreed with the way we went about this, but when we are in front of Lord Aruthian, is that his name? We need to act as one team, and clearly you do know that even though we approached this elf, we didn't do it with any purpose other than to talk to her, so you know it wasn't, it was pure intentions. So when we go and we talk to this lord, you have to be with us. You can't be agreeing with the other side, or else that'll make us look like
There might
you
be someone
had
A
to
bad
know what
party
was going to
member.
happen when we approached her.
There's no way to know
There's-
what happens when you approach anything.
Down here there is, Physic. Your curiosity is going to get us killed. It's going to get you killed.
This is kind of what I was hoping would happen by approaching her, to be honest. I don't see this as a tragedy. I see this as a huge opportunity that could work greatly in our favor. Here we are having some rapport with Castian, where he's an intelligent individual who's lived here for years, long enough to remember times when there were human civilizations down here as well. That's a beyond valuable asset. He was explaining to us how they managed to survive when he was talking to us. They keep themselves scarce. They try to keep, I guess, literally to the trees, to try and avoid making any kind of traceable marks in the grounds. And so this is a place where we can learn so much more about being able to make it to Sicilia. And the Elven mantra here, it's okay, we have time. Sure, we don't have time, but we need time, because we aren't ready to make the journey we need to get to Lady Cecilia. We will die.
And what about the next time, when it's not?
Well, then we'll be ready.
If it was the next time and it wasn't just an elf who was bathing innocently, who we shouldn't have approached, I would actually fire my weapon and shoot her. There were many times I could have. And then I look at Josh. Sorry, buddy.
That's all right. I wanted her to hit me so she could feel more safe.
Look,
that I
if
wasn't afraid.
anything, we get these guys hopefully on our side to see our point of view. No one made mistakes. No one was wrong. And then maybe we give them a baby, or maybe we have them borrow the baby.
See,
And-
you're all talking about unity, but
That'll solve the problem with the baby being with us. If they can, it'll be on loan. They've had it for a little while. We come back, take it back. No, we won't be traveling in the dangerous world with
Baby's
the
on loan.
that could be a good compromise.
That
Have
would
them take the baby for a while.
but
Would
you're
you
all
care to
talking
borrow
about
our
unity,
baby?
but that's not what's going on here.
Where isn't it happening? I need you to think about that.
So even though I'm uncomfortable with how everybody is choosing to do things, I should just shut up and go along with everything instead of everybody wanting to talk it out.
Why are you disagreeing with us?
Because
Okay.
we had 3 friends die, Physic. You're all I have left, and
Oh, thanks.
you're just gonna run into things, seemingly without thinking and not caring about how I feel.
And how do you feel?
I feel alone.
Me too.
You know, before I met you, all I had was Jerusha. I had to make my own friend. I built her. Because nobody else would accept what I was, and I wasn't allowed to tell anybody what I was. They all thought I was a bumbling idiot because I couldn't tell them I had magic abilities I couldn't control. And then I met you,
Yeah.
and the others, and you took me to Charybdis, and she showed me how to control it.
Yeah,
Now it's just you.
Gord, did they confiscate my backpack?
They did not confiscate backpacks or possessions, only anything that was an obvious weapon.
I'm gonna go ahead and reach into my backpack where I have a a bottle of alcohol.
Oh, yeah, but that's pure alcohol, isn't it? Isn't that like...
No. I also have a bottle because I figured it still kind of works for distilling if I need to.
Okay,
But
so...
no, it was a bottle from the Erie. It was their finest Ravens rum, I think.
Oh,
was
that's
all
right,
they had.
yeah.
Yeah, so I just have a bottle of rum. I'm gonna pull it out and I'm just gonna be like, you know, we haven't had a time to just kind of deal with this. I'm gonna just kind of set it on the bed, still closed, and then be like, you want to share a drink?
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Got it on the table.
I mean, I just met all of you, but
Yeah. I mean,
you have saved my life we've helped each other multiple times already.
All right.
You could have just let that mantis eat me, so.
Yeah. Yeah. But then you could have let the mantis eat me. That guy over there arm wrestled the damn thing. I'm gonna start digging around. I'm gonna pulse I'm pulling 5 little tiny bottles of they're empty bottles for my stuff. But yeah, I'm just putting them out, popping the corks off of them, and then pouring over all of them.
All right, okay.
And Rush.
Everybody take one.
What do you do when you're kidnapped by elves? Shots. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Rush, I just want to say, us big folk, we're not replacing anybody. And then player Shagget finds that very funny, but we're not a replacement of those you have lost. I didn't know them personally, but that doesn't matter now, I guess. And I'm awkwardly going to take one of the shot glasses that Physic pours.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll reach out and I'll say, all right. Maybe we do have to discuss, once we get out of here, things going forward. I'll grant you that. But at least would you admit right now that step number 1 is getting out of here to continue the mission, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just focus on step number 1. Getting out of here. And I think the best chance of us doing that is being in a united front, being on the same page. I think we're all right there. Things in the future we'll hash out later, but right now I think we need to be together to make it out of this in one piece.
That's what I want.
Take mine and just
Okay.
lift it and be like,
Great.
here's to getting out of here.
Here.
Yes, I don't drink, but
I'll take. I reach over and
Hey,
snatch
hey,
it out of your hand, and at the same time I do it. Not even one after the other. Two at the same time.
Here.
Ah,
I take a small sip. That's plenty.
Alrighty. Okay. So, what do you guys want to do, like, for the rest of the evening? Just kind of rest while you have an opportunity, and kind of...
Yeah. and talk about what we're saying, I guess.
Okay.
Like, kind of prepare, because I took notes. I don't know if you saw while he was talking. I felt weird doing it, but I felt like I needed to, just purely from an anthropological standpoint. So the points he raised that we need to prove is that we mean no harm, that what we're telling is the truth, and that it wouldn't be unwise to let us leave. Now,
Well-
that last one has some facets to it, but yeah, what do you think?
Well, the last one is simple in my eyes. We show them that we are on an expedition to rescue someone of importance, and if we fail and are kept here imprisoned and are killed, there's a chance that they will just send more and more and more. And miscommunications, like what happened with Alesse, could happen again and again and again. That's a good incentive to let us continue on.
Sound like a threat, though.
Well,
You
no,
like the way
but
you word things sometimes, Daleth. I don't know.
well, maybe I should not be the one to word it, but it is
More
true.
people are going to come down from here if you don't release us. Yes,
But that is true, is it not?
you can say it with a bit of
Tact.
yes.
I don't know tact. I live.
Tactics.
That was good. That was good.
Thank you.
Uh,
I made a real joke like that.
Rush, I think this is your time to shine.
All right. Looks like one of the moderators is calling for a vote of inspiration for Spook's roleplay. You can go and click yay or nay to vote for that. And if the vote is carried efficiently, then an inspiration point shall be rewarded. Okay.
Okay.
Well, Rush, you've always had a certain way of getting people to do whatever you want with you. So, sorry to bring it to that, but you do have that way of putting words where people like them. It's not something I can do.
It's that's
It's
that's
lot
a tall order.
Yeah, yeah. Which is why we have this time now. Guess we can get ready. Where interrupting is rude. We can't afford to, because we all cut each other off like we're married.
Well, we are a hasty bunch.
Yeah. So, if we could designate a speaker, and having one who's a little charismatic, or I think
Well, I'm out.
yeah, sorry, buddy.
Who would you consider to be the charismatic one of the
Oh
group?
my god, in this
Honestly, Jack. It's the accent, man. It's the
It's
accent.
just the accent.
It gets me.
Well, the
That's all it
vote
is.
looks like that
All
vote
right.
is well and truly solid and carried. So there you go, Spook. Inspiration point for you.
Nice.
May come in
question
handy
is-
down here.
That's what I'm thinking, right?
Well,
The question is, Rash, does your diplomacy extend beyond just in the bedroom? Is it just you're only
Out
a...
of character, my diplomacy shit. It's my bluff skill at top, but
That's the decision. Do
perhaps-
you want to rely on bluffing your way out of it, or do you want to try to diplomatically get out of it?
well, honestly, we have only one true diplomat here, and I'm going to look at Marigold.
No, you're a diplomat.
You were a noble. You obviously were raised in customs, and these elves are probably more like you than
Nobles.
like us.
Eat them.
Maybe if you harness your inner nobility.
she's trying to get as far away from that as possible.
Yeah,
But it is a tool in your arsenal.
I have no real skills with diplomacy, though I have persuaded many people in my past, but it was for terrible, awful things, and
Well, obviously,
Just
don't
a
bring
new
that
territory.
up. Bless you, Spook. I mean, you obviously don't mention your past god.
Of course not. So what do you suppose I would say to these people? Elves.
Just tell them what happened. Tell them a story. We've got nothing to hide, nothing to fear.
In a honest
Josh, you seem to be way better at it than I. I get a bit heated about it.
You do seem to fly off the handle sometimes, I'll say. But
I get
maybe you
passionate
could
about something, you know?
maybe you could harness that passion into truth and justice and all the stuff that you believe in.
All that nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that
It is
was
not
jumbo.
nonsense.
I think it's imperative. Whatever we do, what we say is the truth. I don't think there should be any reason to lie or try to obfuscate.
And I think it would be good of us to emphasize that we have a certain empathy for her side of the story, that we understand her course of action, and we were trying our best to diffuse it.
All right, we got this, Marigold. No problem.
I suppose so. I just, when I get started on a story, sometimes I forget words and I'll do
It's
my
okay.
best.
I'll be there with you.
So what's your sleeping arrangements tonight? Are you putting the baby in a bed by itself?
That was a strange segue there, Corey.
We're all gonna sleep with Marigold.
What?
Well, these beds are not particularly large, so I mean they're adequate for a human that would be no taller than about 5'4".
Is there?
Well, I'm
is there-
fine then. It's fine.
Can we put the baby in? Can we put the baby in the basket? Is there?
Yeah,
a
I was gonna use the papoose and just kind of hang it from. I was gonna tie it
tree.
up hang the baby from a tree.
Take the baby out the tree. You know?
Yeah,
I
hanging
was
out the
gonna
window on a
lasso
branch.
his legs. I was gonna
Yeah.
lasso his legs and then hang him from the wrap.
I'll do it.
No, so I'm basically just taking the little papoose I've fashioned and I'm hanging it around the because the bed frame has those the bars on it. So it's better for a baby to sleep cradled than it is
So you want to
any other way because then it can't roll over. Yeah.
around the
Then I'm gonna
headboard.
basically. Yeah.
Okay,
Because I don't need all that room in the bed.
there you go.
Roll
Yeah.
for mother's tuition. Intuition, rather. Tuition.
All right,
Roll for mother's tuition.
and then are you going to sleep on the same bed with the baby?
That way, well, the problem is if it cries, I'll startle, I'll wake up, and when I wake up, I'm usually like, Toner! So that might be
All right.
dangerous.
Okay.
So, I'll sleep in the bed next door.
All right, so you all rest down. Is anybody doing a watch? Do you trust this place enough to sleep soundly, or does one of you?
Look, if they want us dead, they want us dead. We'd be dead.
Yeah, it would be dead.
We're sleeping.
There you go.
Agreed.
All right. Okay, so you slowly doze off. The beds, as I said, they are incredibly comfortable. So yeah, you fall into a deep slumber, and about no more than about 2 hours pass.
Elves don't sleep.
Oh man.
I'll take the first shift. Then I'm
Physics
gonna,
it's for you.
Turn off that awful noise.
gonna start by rocking the thing, just kind of being like, "Hey, buddy, it's okay."
Could you just put a spell on it and just make it sleep?
Maybe. And then I'm doing the thing with the thumb in the mouth to try and pacify baby because I don't have a pacifier. Not working. Doesn't want the thumb. Okay. Picking up the baby, holding the baby.
Diaper.
The baby smell.
No, the baby doesn't smell, actually.
Just
Rock
the
the baby. Rock the baby. Just doing my best to keep the baby. Not a word of this gets out. One coffee prayer and finished there. I had time I never find.
Give me a performance skill check. Performance
All right.
skill check, go. I'm serious.
Yeah.
You mean you gotta be a good singer to pass to? Oh no.
He's too much of a gnome. I don't have perform anything, so it'd just be straight charisma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey!
Hey! First good roll of the thing. So,
All right. Yes. Eventually, you cry and rock the baby back to sleep. Congratulations, Mummy Physic. You did a great job.
Yes! That was out of character.
All right. Okay. And back to sleep. You managed to go.
Yay. For 4 hours.
For 4 hours. In which
I'll go
case,
and grab the baby this time.
You know, there is a pillow right there.
Hand him over. Hand him over.
Wow.
I'm gonna feed him. He's gotta be hungry by now. Come
okay.
on here, Ned.
Give me a spot check, Jane.
Uh-oh. It's a mutant baby.
He has a rash.
Shit.
All right, so you're gonna give him more food, more of that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, he keeps turning his head. He doesn't seem to want it.
No!
Oh.
Shoot. Okay, I'll not do that then.
Oh, shut the
Are the
baby up.
guards still standing out there?
Probably.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
Right, one of them, he kind of like turns and looks.
Do you have anything that could feed a baby? Like something normal? We don't have much here
Thanks to
except
cheer,
these
Flutter.
berries. Milk?
All right, they kind of look at each other
They don't speak common.
and they just kind of shrug.
I'm gonna hold up the baby and then like the bottle thing and shake it as if it's all out.
Like shake the baby. Okay. No.
Yeah. The baby's out. The baby's out.
All right. So he walks over to where you are. He takes hold of the door handle and slams the door so that he doesn't have to listen to the crying baby anymore.
Alright.
Oh, Marigold, what's wrong with it?
Check its diaper again. Is it go?
Berries.
Marigold, did it go again?
Did it? How did it go? Does it smell?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't smell still. It hasn't. It has not pooped at all.
That's
It
not
is.
good.
That doesn't seem to be the
That's not good
problem.
at all.
It's terrible. Alright, I'm just gonna just rock him back and forth.
What's its BMI right now? Is it progressing? Oh.
The babies in the chat who are getting triggered.
Oh no.
Rock him because I don't know what else to do.
So it's not hungry, and it didn't go to the bathroom.
And it doesn't want to eat.
That or it just doesn't like the food.
Well, that's all we got.
That is all we got.
I guess we're up now.
Bad dad, Ruby Hara. Bad dad.
God.
I'm gonna walk over.
Sit up and like cast small bits of dancing light to try to calm it down.
All right. It's not a terrible idea, but it just seems to just not be very happy for some reason. It's obviously got something going on with it.
I'm gonna walk over to it too. Like, does there a rash on it or something that it could have?
Jungle fever, perhaps.
You want to check? You want to do a heal check to check for fever? You can do that.
It either has jungle fever or cabin fever.
Of course, I mean heal
Maybe
check you could
cabin
use
fever?
for that for sure. So if you want to go and check it for fever or whatever, you can, Marigold. You want to check the
Oh, I
baby's
can do it.
temperature.
Oh, I walked over to check it for spots or a rash, but okay.
Okay. Give me a spot check then.
Okay.
Okay, so Marigold, as you kind of check it, you think you've kind of figured out what the problem is. It doesn't seem to have any rashes or spots or anything like that. But the way it's kind of sort of seems to be kind of like keep putting, like, it doesn't really know what to do because it's a baby. But it seems to get considerably more upset when you're around its stomach. And you start to think that maybe the thing's got some form of upset stomach.
Oh, it's constipated. Makes sense.
You've been feeding it berries. Why would it be constipated?
Healing.
I'm gonna
They're magical constipation berries.
burp the baby.
That's probably the function.
Okay, so you're
Alright.
gonna burp the baby?
Mm-hmm.
So I did a spot check.
Yeah. You didn't see any kind of rashes or marks or anything like that on it at that
Does
time.
his stomach hurt?
Sweet.
That's what I figured out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think so? Yeah.
So,
It's got an upset stomach.
Need some Tums.
No, I think you had it right. Burp it.
Burp it.
Its stomach hurts. We hadn't been
I did.
burping it after we feed it.
Or
Burped
cast,
it.
or
Burping it.
village with a spell or something, right? I mean,
It has gas. Oh God, give me the baby. And I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna.
Are you gonna start trying to burp the baby?
guys,
Yes.
I'm in a basement playing D&D with my friends on the internet. I'm not ready to be a father.
Hey, here on How Reroll, we're gonna train you.
I don't know about this.
What it is your prospective spouses have all been paying me to help educate you in making you better parents for the future where it might be necessary. But all right, so you start burping the baby,
Oh, man.
and it quietens down after a few good
I hate
solid
you.
burps.
I'm
There you go.
gonna
Rush to the
walk back
rescue
to
this
bed.
time. See, it's clear that this is going to be a co-parenting relationship with this baby. You've all got different skills where it's concerned.
That was a good one. I feel you, buddy. I feel the same way after I eat those berries. Put it back in the
Sorry.
cradle.
Okay.
Alright.
I'm gonna flop back down in bed. Ugh.
All right. A few minutes later, you hear the door like loudly, boom, boom, boom.
Ah, Jesus, what now?
Right. What you kind of just almost immediately again, boom, 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 boom.
You go open it.
All right. It's the
You
guard.
may enter.
He thrusts what appears to be some kind of like a small skin, like a small wine skin, but it's not. It have a very small amount of wine in it, but you know, a drink skin, water skin, and thrusts it in your hand, and then slams the door closed again.
They understood.
Oh, good old elf milk.
No, they milk
Okay.
unicorns. Okay.
Yeah, what is the liquid?
Unicorn milk.
You live forever.
All right. It's kind of a. So you kind of like, flick some out the end to look at it. It's kind of like an orangey, creamy liquid.
Oh, it's Tang.
Take his up.
Depends how thick you make it, Jane. Shaggot
Alright.
likes his tang
I'll keep that
thick.
around for when the baby
Never-
cries next.
I'm gonna try to go to sleep again.
All right.
Yeah. God, Gort.
6 hours isn't enough for a sniper.
Hey.
All right. So you managed to get pretty much. By the time the baby wakes up again, you've all got more or less a reasonable amount of sleep. We're gonna take a short break right there because you're about to get summoned. The door opens, and one of the guards is there, ready to escort you to wherever it is that you're going to be needed to go to. So he pretty much points at you, and then just like, and starts walking.
Who has the baby?
Is someone going to grab the baby?
I'll take it.
It's
God,
fine, let
I'll
it
get
sleep
the
in.
darn thing. Gosh.
If it cries at any point, just have them
It's gonna
excuse
start
me.
crying while the main guy's talking. They're gonna kill it. Okay.
Just have them excuse me if they will, you know.
Okay.
All right. Well, as you rush out
wrong
the
guy.
door, you're just in
Sorry.
time to see him point, kind of like disappearing around a corridor to the side here. And you really don't have to travel very far at all.
Oh, okay,
Man.
so right there. Did they hear everything we said?
Probably heard everything we
They bugged
said.
the room.
Elven ears.
All right. After that, the guard is going to retire back to where he was before. Or actually, they're probably going back to where they were originally.
Bring Cordelia over here.
All right. Okay, so once you walk in, you can see Castian is sitting at the first chair. Like, he stands up as soon as you walk in, and then politely suggests that all of you take a seat.
Oh, okay.
Will do.
All right, so to give you a better view,
I took his chair, huh?
there's Castian.
No, I didn't. Just shove casting out of the way.
Will arranging it by height. Marigold, switch with me. Marigold is tall, man.
She is tall.
Look at that. Freakishly tall.
All right.
Yes. Well, we
So
have
yeah,
Yeah, you're a
showing
freak.
everybody. There's Castian. So
Wears
here
heels.
is the girl. There's the elf girl that led you here, which was Alessi Ediel. That's her. I'm gonna go ahead and close out this
Cute.
frame, and as certain people talk, we'll be popping up their images for you guys to see. All right, so yeah, on the other side of the chamber, over here, you can see Alessi. That's the woman, or the elf, the she-elf that brought you here. On a raised, kind of two-step platform, as it were, there's another circular plinth, of which you can see a huge, big, ornate throne that is naturally got plants all planted around it that seem to have like woven up around the arms, giving it an almost overgrown look. You assume that that's probably Lord Eruthian Larethiel. To his immediate right. What the what? What's it? Flanzig, resub height, 5 months for Flans. Go ahead and take your pants off.
Thanks, Manny.
It's your height. Appreciate it, bud.
Plan man.
Alrighty. Yeah, there's so you see a populate her here. To his right is a what looks like another she-elf. She is wearing long, ornate greenish robes that are dark green in some places and yellow. She has a huge, big, kind of glowing amulet around her neck. Kind of where all the ascented parts are, to kind of like highlight them, you can see like what almost looks like natural woven vines and twine that are kind of like circling around her neck, around her breasts, and kind of around her waist. She has fierce red hair, and her eyes are just, they're solid green. They just glow with a solid green light. There's no pupil, it's just green.
Wow.
So that's what she looks like. To his left is a tall, kind of striking she-elf who also has kind of, she's got more like a, almost like a copper-tinted hair. Very athletic. She's standing with, she's got a very ornate bow in her right hand. She also has what looks like twin knives, very similar in dress as Alessi. She seems to just have a very fierce scowl on her face the entire time that doesn't seem to waver. Sitting in the center is Lord Eruthian Larethiel himself. He is dressed in very fine and kind of form-fitting white robes. He is holding what appears to be a scepter that's clearly made of some kind of wood, but has like a, almost like a glass vial set in the center of it with a light blue liquid that seems to radiate light. Only slightly, but it just has a iridescent glow about it. Next to them, standing on either side, are two elven guards. Unlike the ones that you saw earlier that have elven long knives and shields, these have huge, big, curved, two-handed blades. And they are both just kind of standing there with the blade rested across their shoulder, but they're holding it like with both hands permanently, almost ready that should anybody dare approach the plinth, that they could come down with the sword and lop your head off in one foul swoop. Okay, as you kind of stand there or sit there now, your advocate, Castian Tenuvir, kind of looks across the room at the Elven Lord, and then when he sees a very polite nod, he moves around and turns to face you guys in front of you, getting very close. He says, "Very well. Remember, you are here to appease any suspicions and convince them that you mean us no harm and that freeing you will not have adverse effects for us. That is your goal here."
Okay.
He said if you can manage to convince him of that, then consider anything else that you might wish to discuss or whatever. But for now, keep your discussions and arguments to the facts, which are why you're here. Clear up the so-called misunderstanding where Alessi was concerned, and try to end up with a favorable impression, or at least a neutral one.
Okay.
With that, he turns around and walks to the center, standing on the it's like a huge big unicorn crest on the ground, which is something you've kind of noticed is a huge unicorn at the top of the entryway. The medallion that she seems to be wearing has a unicorn embossed on the center of it. The medallion that the woman wearing the greenish robes has. Indeed, the huge, big, ornate rug here in the center of this chamber is ringed with unicorns and has a huge unicorn in a crest. So clearly, they got a thing for unicorns. The only other thing in this chamber of note is a statue of a tall, scantily dressed woman with like very intricately carved, ornate hair. Okay. He walks forward and begins to speak in Elvish, which, as I understand, none of you currently speak. He speaks for about 60 seconds, after which Lord Eruthian Larethiel says 3 or 4 Elvish words. And then you see him kind of glance and look and address, obviously, Alessi. At that point, your advocate steps off of the rug, and Alessi comes and stands and turns around. She looks at you. She does a sweeping bow to all of you, says a few words, and then she smiles and then turns around and begins to address his lordship. They converse backwards and forwards maybe for about as much as 10 to 15 minutes. As soon as they've done that, she steps back. His lordship waves his hand once again toward Castian, who then steps back to the center, turns, looks at you, and then clearing his throat, Alessio has told Lord Castian that she was bathing in the sacred pool, alone, with her guard companions close by, but not in a inappropriate proximity, of when which she turned and noticed you, as he points at Dalith, climbing a tree to gain an advantageous position to view her. Seeing this, she fled to cover her modesty, retrieved her bow for self-defense, and climbed to put herself in clear view so that you were fully aware where she was. He says, it was then that this lady, and he points now at Marigold, began to wave her arms in an arcane fashion as if to conjure or cast some form of magic. Seeing this, she shouted a warning and fired an arrow, which she claims did little more than sting her ear. Upon seeing that this did not deter her and she continued to try to cast, feeling threatened for her very life, she fired a more home-truthful arrow to strike her down. It was at this point that others of your group began to move. This gentleman here, as she points at Jash, began to circle around to reach her. At this point, she tried to hide herself to gain coverage and avoid being seen. Given an opportunity, when she noticed that this man was advancing on her, weapons drawn and ready behind his shield, she assumed he meant her harm, so she tried to cut him down. It was then that she used her stealth to try to sneak closer to him, for her intentions were to place a blade at his neck to try to deter any more aggressive actions, of where she would then try to defuse the situation and find out your intent. She says numerous times she called out to ask who you were and what you were doing, but initially there was no response, and then you began to converse with her in the language of the orcs nonetheless. It was upon this point where she deemed that she was uncertain of the circumstance, after you shouted what she deemed to be a warning to your friend here. He seized the opportunity and retreated to where you all then came to a clearing, as she demanded, after some conversation, that you position yourself clearly where she could see you, which you did. She said at this point there was little attempt at conversation. She gave a warning call and called her comrades to her aid, and once they arrived, they demanded that you lower your weapons, which again you did. It was then that you explained that you were in search of another of your kind that apparently had crashed in some flying contraption or device here in the forests. And then you claimed to have found this small baby laying underneath a tree, of which, when taken to the clearing where you claim the tree was, your description that the tree was a large tree surrounded by ceremonial stones, the ceremonial stones were there. It seemed that there were signs that at some point possibly the tree was there, but at this time there was no sign of this tree at all. He says, do any of you wish to contest any point of her story? If you do, now is the time. I suggest that you rise from your chair, approach the center, and stand next to me. Say what you will, and I will repeat it as close to word for word as a translation can be achieved in our language.
Is that us
Are
having
we
the
allowed
opportunity
to
to
speak?
speak now?
Well,
or
right now he's asking if any of you want to contest anything she said.
contest.
In other words, is there anything she said that's not true? Thanks for the sub, buddy. Much appreciated. Much love. New subscriber hype. Gotta love Twitch Prime. Take your pants off. Hit the
Alright.
hype.
Sounds
In
like a fair answer. No.
in regards to step by step what transpired, that is true. The only contestation I can think of is the intentions behind our
He says, well, we
movements.
will discuss intentions in a moment.
Fair enough. Well,
He says,
No, I don't think any of us have. That sounds incredibly accurate.
So he turns around, and you hear him say a few very brief words and then nod. At which point he then turns around and says, "It is now your opportunity to recant the events in the same way as you see them unfolding. In your own words, who wishes to speak for you?"
I look at Marigolds, honestly.
I stand up.
I think we all looked at
I
Marigold.
stand up at this
All right.
point. I'm like,
Okay, so he kind of moves over and stands in the center and kind of like uses his gesture to point for you to come and stand next to him.
oh, okay. I'll walk up very astutely.
Who has the baby?
Rush.
Rush. I need
Oh,
you
I
to...
do?
Oh, does he?
Yeah, no,
I mean, sorry.
Oh, physics. Okay. All right.
all
Physics.
All
gnomes
gnomes
look
look
the
alike to
same.
you, huh?
I don't know what you want to do with this information right now, but he sure does feel a lot heavier than he did yesterday, and he doesn't really seem to fit that,
No.
the thing that you made quite as well. In fact, you'd swear he's probably about a good 3 to 4 inches longer than he was, and he's got teeth starting to come through, like natural human teeth.
Oh my gosh.
But he's
Growing like a tree.
he's kind of squirming a lot, and he seems to be like feeling very uncomfortable. You see him like numbing down on his own lip a good bit.
So I'm going to take my glove off and just give it to him to teeth on.
Okay, so you're gonna like, just put the glove in his mouth, he's like,
Well, yeah, I'll turn it inside out so that the cleaner side's there.
yeah,
but
okay, yeah, no, he chow. Hey, he's quite happy to chew on a piece of leather. That works.
Yeah.
Okay, back to Marigold. So as you stand next to him, he says, "Very well. Explain the circumstances as they happened, the events themselves, in your own words. Intent or motive or defense is not relevant at this time. Just tell us what happened."
Well, it should be noted that the day before we stumbled into Alessi, we did find this baby by a large tree next to a circle of stones. This baby was alone and face down in the dirt with no one around, so we waited a long time and ended up picking up the baby thinking that we could keep it safe and hopefully find its parents. The next day, as we are traveling east, we saw a figure in the water. Turns out it was Alessi, and our first thought was, perhaps this baby belongs to her. Or perhaps she could give us information on the mission that we are currently trying to achieve. So, we tried to approach with stealth. I had Dalith here get into a tree as backup and protection, and then we approached. At that point, she noticed as Dalith may have made a noise and got out of the water. We called out to her a few times, but it was clear that we did not speak the same language. Once she had her bow ready, she said something, and I thought to myself, we need to be able to communicate with her so we could properly tell her that we mean no ill will. At that point, I began to cast my spell Comprehend Languages, in which she fired an arrow right at me. And I thought I probably shouldn't stop this so I could still understand her, so I continued my spell till it was over. At that point, I realized I could understand her but not speak the language. So my friends here began to speak in all the languages they knew until we both realized we could both speak Orc language. And so I believe we told her that we meant no harm. And then She told us to stand in front of her, so we all did. We did not retaliate in any way. We surrendered immediately. And then she called her friends over. All we wanted to do was speak with her and figure out if this baby was hers or not. And that is what happened.
All right, so the entire time you're speaking, standing next to you, speaking about about at half your volume, your elven advocate is basically just mumbling along word for word with you.
It's good, Marigold. You're yelling at a leader.
But
Yelling.
I mean, he's just
half your
speaking so
volume.
that
I'm
she can be clearly heard. He's speaking at a volume that they can hear, but
Right,
he's deliberately speaking lower than her so that her voice is what's
understand.
carrying more.
I've-
All right. After that, Lord Aruthian just smiles and nods, and your advocate uses his hand to gesture you back to your chair.
I give Marigold a thumbs up.
There you go.
Yeah, we're all just like, yeah.
At this point, Castian, your advocate, takes a deliberate step to stay within the center circle, but not inside the shield. At which point he just stands as if he's waiting. At that point, you hear Lord Aruthian say something in his tongue. And then, rather surprisingly, Castian looks at Marigold and he says, Lord Aruthian asks that the spell that you wish to have casted to understand us, you do so now.
Okay. I won't get shot at.
Providing nothing untowards happens, no. And as he says that, you see the elven female to his left has already got her bow, and you see her pull the bow back as far as she can as she's glaring at you with her arrow pointed directly at your forehead.
Okay, so very gingerly, I'm like, all right. I do my hand motions and I cast comprehend language. Excuse me.
Okay.
Trying to make it look as non-threatening as possible.
All right.
Yeah, there's nothing like that.
Yeah. Okay. As that happens, so you will understand as the woman to his right says, this would appear to be more of a religious nature than that of the arcane.
In common, I say, yes, it is of a religious nature.
All right. With that, Lord Aruthian then says in common, what deity is it that you choose to align yourself with?
Oh, he speaks common. My god is the god of Tritherion. He is a foe of evil and oppression.
All right. He kind of looks at the woman to his right and says, an interesting choice, don't you think? And she just smiles and nods politely at him with her piercing green glowing eyes. He says, do you perhaps recognize the deity that we all worship here?
And who do you worship here?
So with that, the woman next to him says, clearly a young initiate.
I mean, Isaac knows, but he doesn't know what you're saying.
Okay, when you say that, he kind of smiles and almost indulges your seemed ignorance, and then says, the signs are all around you. As you entered our fair city, you saw our statue in homage. It stands upon you where you stand upon these crests on the floor. It is around the druidess's neck to my right. It is etched and carved in our steps and on the scabbards of the weapons of the guards. Here we worship Elona, goddess of the forest in both her forms. Are you familiar with this deity?
Where I come from, there aren't any forests or woodlands, and I believe I am very unfamiliar with her.
I see. You say where you come from. Where is this exactly?
We are to the west, up in the mountains, in a city called Azumaya.
And in this city are all folk human, or, and then he kind of looks, as he deliberately, almost without realizing, lowers himself down like he's trying to get on their level, and says, or gnomes?
The majority of our people are human, though there are some other races. I'm gonna look over to those two. Gnomes, a few elves, and, what else is there?
Dwarves.
Wolves? Oh yeah.
Whoops.
I'm not gonna mention the half-orc though, I'm just gonna omit that one.
Good move. Good
But
move.
mostly human.
He says, I see. It is a shame that you are not more familiar with Elona. At which point you hear her say, but I have a feeling he may be. And Physic, as she speaks, you see her pointing at you. He says, does he possess the ability to understand us? In our own tongue also? Or only in the common tongue? And he's still looking and talking to Marigold at this point.
Okay, I'm gonna turn to Physic. Physic, do you have a spell to understand language?
I can understand animals.
I'm gonna turn back.
Okay.
He speaks Common and a few other languages, but he does not possess the same capacity as I do to understand.
He says, it is a shame. As you are already aware, Castian Tunavia, being the most old and venerable amongst us with his incredible long life, speaks your language. I, being a mere 347 years myself, only know this language, for I wish to learn, and he has taught me. There are no others here amongst our community that really speak this tongue of yours, which does put us all at a disadvantage. What other languages do you speak? I know that you speak Orcish, as many of us do, but that is not a language that is appropriately spoken here.
Is he talking to Physic or to me?
To you still.
Okay. I only speak Common.
Very well. You mentioned your friend speaks other languages. What
Correct.
would they be?
There's Orcish. There's whatever else they speak. I'm gonna turn to Physic. What languages do you speak?
Common, gnome, draconic, orc, and
Oh my
druid.
god. Common, gnome, draconic, orc, and druid? Yes.
Okay. In a weird kind of understandable but broken druidic tongue, the woman in green says to Physic, which among the pantheons of the forests and nature do you choose?
Oh, bad, hi.
Okay, she smiles and she says, you are known of Elona.
Yes.
Nice.
She says, then, knowing that we so all follow Ichlona, then you are aware she would not tolerate those to worship her of a cruel heart.
Yes.
And then you understand that all here are those who love for the forest and accept the blessings and teachings of Elona.
Yes.
It is perhaps you would do service to explain to your companion.
It's broken. But, yeah. I'm going to kind of turn to everyone and just go, the elves here are quite fond of Alana, the other nature god. Well, I can't say other nature god, that makes it sound like the other. Sorry, guys, I'm doing
The
that
other
thing
white
again.
meat.
She stands for the goodness that comes from nature and the gifts that come along with the life that we are given. The much more pleasant cousin of Obedhai,
Well, that's good news, yeah?
because they don't know cruelty here, I don't think.
But the forest itself is, in my opinion, cruel, no?
When you can't walk along it. Yeah, in the same way where we were introduced to our elven friend over there in a very ill manner, one could very quickly presume that all elves are evil, but that's not the case.
I never thought that.
Hmm.
I'm just gonna slink in my chair a little bit.
So
I
they
wouldn't say
worship.
nature's good or evil. It's just nature.
And that's why I follow a bit high, because that's the part where I get tripped up. That's where it stops. That's the end of it for me.
Yep. All right. Once she thinks, once you've had your opportunity to explain it.
I'll nod to signify I'm done.
Okay. So Lord Aruthian then says in common, "It would seem that neither side chooses." Oh, and they asked Alessi if she wanted to contest anything you said, to which she waved her hand and she was fine with. He says, "It would seem that you have both come together in agreement on the circumstances and events as they happened. This is good. Now, Alessi Adiel, if you would approach." And she does, and once again she gets to the center and she turns and she waffles on in elf speak for about 15 minutes. Basically, Jane, what she says is she does not trust your motives. She doesn't know anything about this flying thing that you claim. She finds it completely strange and overly coincidental that you should be found so close to their elven dwelling, and that while she doesn't disbelieve the story about the tree, she is deeply troubled that a human baby should have been found in such a place so close to their city, and that you should all show up at an appropriate time to just find it laying there. She doesn't seem to think that what you're... Basically, she's implying... She doesn't flat out say she believes you're lying, but she definitely says this story seems to be incredibly far-fetched and coincidental, and my motives remain that I acted in self-defense against a superior foe. I don't know whether they meant to do me harm or whether they just realized that they were fighting a losing battle, so chose to surrender for their own preservation. So after that, she steps back out. Castian then looks at you and he says, now is where you explain your motives and your reason for being there. Who wishes to speak?
Physic?
Okay. Then I'll walk forward.
Alright. He stands next to you. And much like what he did, as you speak, he is just mumbly, very quietly talking underneath your breath, underneath his breath, repeating what you're saying in the Elvish tongue, so everybody else can understand that's in the room.
The nobility of Azimir had arranged for a wedding among their own, but with another city. And as is done, as tradition, Lady Cecilia, the bride-to-be, was en route from one mountaintop city to another when her dirigible was, a flying machine, was seen descending rapidly towards the surface of the forest after a witnessable explosion through a telescopic lens. This was far to the east, and the nobility, as to protect their name, decided it would be better to send a quiet batch of adventurers, ultimately us, to be a recovery party to seek her out and bring her back alive if possible. We had one attempt fail gravely, and some of our compatriots were lost, so we had to return again to the mountaintop, scaling back to the wall, and we gained new associates. Our adventure has been laden with threat after threat and disaster after near disaster. And we had learned the most valuable lesson from the forest so far has been, we don't know what's coming next. So be ready for anything. When we then traveled to see a baby laying face down in the ground next to a tree in a clearing, our first thought was this could be dangerous. We approached cautiously and recovered the child. And I guess I'm still holding the kid, this child, and questioned its origin, but after fighting several vicious creatures, we've learned not so much to question as to accept and move on. Having this child now, we questioned our ability to keep it safe, and were reluctant to keep it. Some arguments ensued among us as to what would be the best course of action. And ultimately, when we settled down to rest, our soldier here, he saw a shimmer in the distance that looked like water, and we need water to survive, so we all thought maybe check it out and see if that would be a better place to camp. And that's when we met Alessi. Albeit we were a little excited to see someone instead of something down here. That would be the first form of civilization other than orcs that we had encountered. Living, at least, other than the ruins. And we settled, we did not know who she was, so we wanted to secure the perimeter. And in securing the perimeter, we sent kind of a flank with our fighter here, and a good kind of vantage point in the tree, which ultimately had us found out. So we were afraid and wary, and set forth with our diplomat here, our very own Marigold. She came forward and wanted to understand what she was saying, therefore casting the spell, and in her resolve wanted to cast the spell, ultimately leading to more confusion, ironically. We tried many languages to communicate. It didn't work out. We got uncomfortable. It was a big mess. We've been through this bit. Sorry. Essentially, we were approaching reluctantly and fearfully, like we have with everything down here, because it's been hard. It's been very hard, and we at first thought maybe this was the child's mother somehow, and because we don't know, and it turns out evidently not. And as soon as any issue of order was sent from Alessi, as soon as we could understand it, we complied. We simply want to carry on with our mission, and upon being, albeit kept, but in a way welcomed here, we have some form of gratitude. This is a much needed respite from terrors that roam below. Guys, is that everything? I'm gonna turn to everyone else.
Just give a little thumbs up, like, that's pretty good.
All right,
Man.
okay. Your advocate steps off the circle and suggests you go, indicates for you to go back to your seat.
I'm going to kind of give a nod as I back off of the crest, feeling kind of bad for stepping on it to begin with.
At which point, then Lord Aruthian seems to ponder and pause for a second as he looks at Alessi. You see his eyes kind of individually fall upon you one by one, as if he's trying to sum you up within a single glance. He then looks to his right at the woman with all of her green robes. And then he looks back to his left at the girl that seems to have done nothing but scowl the entire time. Okay. He looks like he's about to speak, and then he stops, and you see him ponder for a second, and then he says, "The child. Have you noticed anything strange about it? The way it behaves or acts?"
Doesn't poop.
Cries a lot.
It's growing quickly.
What?
At that, I'm gonna turn and look at Physic.
I am as well.
We all do.
I'm just gonna say, what?
Yes, yesterday it appeared to be an infant, and now it's bordering a toddler. It's
So yeah, now he's brought it to your attention. You can all see it. When you first found it, you assumed it to be maybe 2 to 3 months old. It definitely looks like now it's probably closer to what you'd expect to be 6, 7 months. It's teething already since yesterday.
So
It barely
just-
seems
What
to
the hell?
fit in the little bassinet that Physic made for it.
But you tried to see if it was magical. I don't. I'm gonna look at Marigold.
Did we overfeed it? What was in those berries?
I mean, Marigold, didn't you see if it was magical? And you found it. You said it wasn't, but it's growing.
Unnaturally.
You've noticed that at this point, the woman in the green robes, she kind of leans in really close and so whispering into Lord Aruthian's ear, of which he kind of looks and you see him nod. And he's got a little bit of a more concerned look on his face. He says, I have listened to what you have had to say. I have listened to Alessi. It seems fair and reasonable that your explanation for the circumstance and what we will now refer to as a unfortunate introduction seems to be much as what you say it is. A misunderstanding, a lack of communication between our peoples, as it were. But there are other concerning things that we have to discuss. Do either you, Castian, or you, Tana, as he looks at the woman in the robes, or you, Galen, as he looks at the woman who's scowling the entire time, have anything to add? At which point Galen just kind of glowers and you hear her son of very, very loudly, way louder than any of these have ever spoken. She just kind of yells, Ellen Cass and Dien Lear, with almost like a manly kind of growly voice. What she actually just says is, I don't believe a word of it. I think they're lying. But of course only Marigold heard that. And he politely raises a hand, and then in Elvish he says, as may be, but time will tell. At that point, back in common, he says, we have decided at this point that we don't believe that you are any direct threat at this moment to us. We have more deliberations to do, other things to discuss. So, we are going to offer you some freedoms. You may continue to rest and dwell in the chamber that we have provided for you, and we will have you, have Alessi take you to a place where you may find sustenance and refreshment. You may come and go as you wish, but please, for the time being, do not go wandering the halls that do not concern you, and do not attempt to leave until we have finalized our deliberations.
Thank you.
Thank you, my lord.
Your weapons and items that you had confiscated will be returned for you. Not right now, but soon.
And the baby?
We have to discuss the presence of this child. It seems to be something of interest to us.
Perfect.
Or perhaps more of a worry to us.
Alright.
Should we have not taken it out of the circle?
With that, he kind of looks at the druidess, and says something to her in Elven. Basically, Marigold hears him say, do you have anything to say in regards to whether they should or should not have taken it out of the circle? She looks at him and says, I believe it was possibly fated that they were supposed to find it. She said, I'm just very concerned as to why. At that point, he looks at you and he says, yes, we definitely have to deliberate further on the matter of the infant. You are free to leave, as I have said. You are our guests. No one will act hostile towards you here, provided you do not act with any hostilities towards them.
Cora, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Did they take Jerusha with my items, as it were?
No.
Okay.
She gave you back Jerusha, and of course, they have no clue what's in the box. So yeah, you have Jerusha.
Is it a human heart?
No, it's your soul. All right, okay.
that's
So
what
with that, Castian looks at you and he says, "If you would prefer, I can take you to show you around a little myself, or I can leave you in the capable hands of Alessi. It is your choice."
Castian, prefer you?
Just as you speak.
All
If
right.
you're not busy,
In that case, he just says, "Very well, follow me."
I not walk around this place speaking orc.
I'm gonna get up and bow to the three.
Yep.
And
Okay.
then leave.
Alrighty. Okay. So we're gonna take you through the elven
small,
city.
I can get by you.
Dang it.
So big.
This dude runs.
God, he's a fast walker, yeah. He's
Right?
sticking by the tree,
Alright.
not falling
So
off.
basically, he gets to here and he takes you down this offshoot and opens the door here. And almost with a smile on his face and a look of pride, he says, "This is my study."
Cool.
He says, "I have several tomes that date back hundreds of years. I have done research. I know much about the forest through experiments that I have conducted. Perhaps at some point, when things are of a more civilized and friendly nature, we perhaps can share some knowledge and information. I very much would like to hear more about your human cities. For example, you mentioned that the lady... What did you say her name was?
Cecilia.
Cecilia was traveling to another city? How many of these human cities do you have?
6.
5, 6.
6?
Okay.
But they are a great distance from each other?
And yes, and they are all on the on the top of a mountain. Different mountains, obviously, but
Yes. I read after the last great uprising, when humankind was chased from the forests, they ascended to live far above the trees.
The last great uprising. What's she mean?
Well, close to 1,000 years ago, the great goblinoid warlord Goringash marched upon the city of Obarinth, which was a large human city of tens of thousands. The city was overrun and almost all slaughtered. Those that survived did so by the benevolence of some dwarven friends that showed them a path through the mountains and for a time offered them some form of refuge. It was then that the human leaders deemed it was no longer viable to try to survive and continue their way of life. So it was said that they ascended
That's
and began
very
to
interesting.
create their dwellings far above the city.
And has the forest down here always been this dangerous, or is this
The forest,
kind of a start? Sorry.
since the fall of human civilization, the forest is a far more natural and balanced environment. You deem it to be dangerous and harsh, which indeed it is. Nature for itself is and can be volatile. We choose to embrace the kinder, more benevolent side of nature, where I believe your druidic friend here chooses to follow its more practical teachings.
I say this only because we uncovered for lack of a better word, giant floating skull that had magic. I don't know how else to say it, but it floated.
I do not know anything of what you speak. It is not something of the natural world. This is for sure.
Well, true.
I have his horn, and I'm going to pull it out.
All right. He inquisitively does look over it and just kind of goes to take it from you and look at it and examine it.
The skull was large and had one eye. Its body was detached. It appeared to be the work of some kind of cult that worshipped scorpions.
And as you say that, you see him kind of like thrust the horn back into your hand, and then flees across the room towards his books, and you see him like start thumbing through as if he's looking with great intent to find something. And then he yanks out one of the tomes, comes over and hurls it down on this huge, big kind of marble stone table over here, and starts thumbing through it.
Physic, I think you may have met your soulmate.
Guys, I had a child and now I'm married.
Right. Eventually, after flipping vibrantly through it from left to right, he stops on a page where there's tons and tons of scribbly writing that you have no clue what it says. Clearly, it's in a dialect you don't understand. But you do notice that there is, like a... in the top left-hand corner is a very well-drawn sketching of a scorpion, and somewhere in the middle, amongst a block of text, is a much more crude drawing that looks very similar to the one that you saw on top of the entryway down into that hidden tomb. Right, he kind of like sticks his finger in the middle of the page and points at it vibrantly and says, "Ah," he says, "this. Do you recognize this?"
That's... Yeah, that was it.
Okay. And he says, "Indeed." He said there were various different offshoots and tribes of the original human settlements. Some of them were driven out through their, let's just say, unsavory practices. It would appear that this would have been one of those groups, one of those individual gatherings that the rest of human society viewed with disdain.
We call them cults.
A cult. Interesting. And where did you find the evidence of this cult? Close to here.
Call it Scientology.
It was, about... guys, would you say it was about, like, a half a week's travel?
To the west.
To the west, yeah, to the west of here. Due west.
This large human city that you was basically taken over and invaded, was it to the west, to the north, or to the east of here?
Oh, it would be east of here.
So this was another human settlement. We came across ruins while traveling.
This would be the ruins that you speak of. Would you believe it to have been a settlement that would have supported thousands, or?
several hundred, not quite thousands, but to be fair, much of it was overgrown and collapsed. Something interesting about the place where we found the cult. Originally, I believe the temple itself was repurposed.
I see.
Because I found markings for, ironically enough, Obed High. He had a little stone shrine that had been covered, next to the crypt-like structure where we were hoping to camp actually before we were attacked by the. I suppose we intruded, but attacked by the skull, which recited something in a strange language, which.
It is interesting indeed. I must talk to Galen Firemane about that. I'm sure in her travels she must have come across it.
But there was also a. I guess it must have been a part of a statue, but it was a scorpion claw made of solid gold. We obviously couldn't carry it because it was too heavy, but we found it. As well as a giant scorpion.
But just a claw.
Just the claw of the sculptures.
And the size of this claw was too big to carry. Indicating that was this claw somehow manufactured to be an entity of its own, or do you believe it to have been part of something larger, a larger sculpture?
It was broken off.
It looked like it was broken off. I got quite a close look at it, believe me.
So it would also
look at Josh.
It would also follow then that at some point someone or something has removed the majority of this statue, leaving behind just one claw.
Well, there was other treasure down there, but we didn't really look through it. Because we were attacked by a colossal scorpion with 4 pincers and 2 tails, and we had to kill it.
I have heard rumors, as it says here, that this cult quite often used to engage in sick, deranged and barbaric practices and genetic mutations to bring about such hideous creatures. It would seem that what it is that you uncovered would be something no doubt of their creation. I find this very interesting. More so, as I said, I must talk to Galen Firemane to find out if she has come across this. Although I feel sure that she would have mentioned if she had seen what you had seen.
Galen, that was the really hot one that was standing right, the one that screamed at us. I don't know what she said, but
Galen Firemane, she was indeed standing to the left of Lord Eruthian Larrythel.
If it helps you in your studies, obviously this would be a lender, and I understand your common it needs some dusting, but and my handwriting is atrocious. But if you'd like to borrow my journal, it has a pretty decent account of everything we've encountered so far.
May I?
Yeah, absolutely.
I kindly thank you. Now, you must be hungry and thirsty. Let's continue on. I've indulged my own whimsical fantasies of I'm very proud of what I've achieved and managed to carve out here in my own society. Therefore, I felt a certain element of pride in sharing it with others that might appreciate it. But yes, let's move on.
But before we go, I do have one quick question.
Yes.
Could you perhaps sense the mood of the room regarding the dirigible topic, the matter of technology? I mean, because that obviously is, I can imagine, would sound more far-fetched to people who might not know of it. Is that something we might need to show that we could do or are capable? Or would that just be too dangerous?
If your little friend here with the as he's kind of glancing through physics journal, looking at the sketches, and perhaps you could sketch for us one of these dirigibles.
Well, we
explain its workings, how it functions.
Well, Rush here is a engineer.
I'm quality
probably build you
assurance.
one.
They don't let me near the machines like
Well,
that.
I mean, obviously forewarn them, but we do have black powder and could demonstrate some of what we're able to do. Not in a non-threatening way, just to show how we've survived on top of a mountain. I mean, with sketches, of course.
Yes. Once they have deliberated and discussed the things that they feel, if there is an appropriate time, I will either prompt an audience for you so you can ask more about the whereabouts of this dirigible, or if necessary, I'll perhaps ask on your behalf. As I mentioned, if anybody would have seen such a thing, possibly Galen Faramane would be the one, for she does travel considerably more abound than anybody else.
Yeah, but as Rush said, the hot one, didn't exactly believe any part of our story, so...
That's what she was shouting?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Galen
she did not-
Faramane is the greatest warrior amongst us.
Oh, yeah?
She did not come to be this way by having doubts or allowing emotion to get in the way of survival. If
course.
it would have been up to Galen Faramane, which fortunately it was not, we would have taken your weapons and discarded you alone back to the forest where we found you, allowing and trusting that the forest would take care of you in its own way.
Firebane, huh?
Fortunately, Galen Faramane is known to be hot-tempered. Her
Hasty, perchance?
I would say...
I'm smirking as I say that.
I would say more coldly calculating than hasty.
Yeah, well, where I come from, we call that feisty.
Well, I think Jash could get along with her.
Whereas
Nudge him.
most of us are interested in finding the truth and getting to the bottom of things and giving the benefit of the doubt, she would more feel that if there is any possibility at all that there may be any danger, that it should be assumed that it would and be dealt with as such.
Well, with that in mind, I then must voice a concern. I mean, show us where we could get some food, of course. Thank you.
Yes, follow me.
But you do understand that we have weaponry, and I'm going to kind of bumble along as I speak, as we walk to him. I'm going to say we have weaponry that it's not exactly obvious in what it can do, and we don't want an accident or another misunderstanding. We explained it to Alessi, but
That's something I left out of the account. Yeah.
I mean, we don't want like an accident to happen. So perhaps after you show us, you could warn them or show them.
I don't believe anybody will be interfering with any of your weapons
Oh, God. everybody
until
like
they are
me.
returned
Gosh, you got
to
it.
you.
Well,
There you go.
Oh, I got the wrong person.
are you grabbing me?
Don't be grabbing me.
Did you grab my ass?
Stop grab assing. I keep grabbing you.
Yeah.
Do a little dance here in the corridor and then continue.
Hold me close, a tiny dance.
Hey, it's the guy from earlier. Hello.
What guy from earlier?
The guy downstairs.
Oh, one of those guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, basically he leads you into what looks like the biggest semblance of, honestly, it's a tavern or a drinking establishment or something of that kind of ilk for sure.
Have mercy.
It has numerous tables dotted around. You can see nothing but various different elves scattered across the tables. Clearly, everything is pristinely clean. The bar itself looks like it's actually like a wooden bar that has had pressed leaves placed on it, and then almost kind of like using wood sap or whatever, they varnished it in. So it's kind of like a, a natural, very natural kind of green-looking, foresty type bar. That being said, this place has much the feel of an incredibly quiet human tavern. Everybody talks in quiet mumbles. They're all having polite conversations around their individual tables. There's no drunken brawling. There's no yelling. There's no screaming. There's no drunken leers. For all intensive purposes, it just seems entirely too civilized for what most of you people would consider a drinking establishment. But elves being elves, or at least these elves being these elves, you're not at all surprised. Okay, he says, do you know your way back to your chamber from here?
Yeah, I can see it from here.
Witch!
Druid!
He says, if you do, then I will allow you to get food and drink and rest here and enjoy yourselves. I have other things to do. Whenever you're ready, make your way back to your chambers. We'll let you know once his lordship has finished his deliberations.
Thank you.
If us being in our very nature different is to cause some sort of spectacle, does everyone know we're here?
No. But, of course, this is a small community. I'm sure rumours have already spread of the strangers that Alessi brought. But you can expect them, as all are followers of Ilona. They may look inquisitively. Few of them may even try to speak. Not that any of them here would be able to speak the languages you speak. But none of them will do you any harm. None of them will attempt to cause you any discomfort.
And it would be in our best interest not to try to communicate in Orc.
Do not speak that language here. It would cause nothing but distrust. As it is,
makes sense.
While he did not ask it of you, Lord Aruthian was very curious to know how it is that you speak such a language. When you speak, I'm sure he will ask you about it next time you meet with him.
Well, you see, when I made my character,
I had an extra language slot, and that's what I took, right?
I chose it because of my backstory, and then I realized that I didn't change it when I changed my backstory, so it just kind of...
Honestly, Nudnik probably would have taught you guys if you were inquisitive enough. I mean, we were together for a long time.
Yeah, because I figured we would hang out at the bar. I'd teach you a little bit of a bit more common, kind of as a party game, and then you'd teach us orc things more as a party game.
Yeah.
There you go. So you guys mostly, you learned it from Nudnik or whatever. That's fine. All right. Okay. Well, with that, Castian says, "Well, I will take my leave, and we will talk to you again tomorrow."
How do you order food? You just go up there and point?
I understand. Yes, you do not speak our language. I trust that, and now he's looking at Marigold. He said, I trust that the arcane skills that you possess to understand us, does it not permit you also to converse?
Unfortunately, it does not.
Ah. Very well. Then perhaps I will order food for you and have it brought to a table.
Thank you.
Thank you, Castian.
He kind of glances around and points at about the only spare table in here.
Let's bring another chair up.
Yeah, you'll just have to grab another chair.
We're small.
I need
we
a
can
good
share.
vantage point. Maybe I can communicate with somebody in
The
charade.
nodes can sit side by side on one chair. They'll work. All right. Okay, he goes up
I mean,
to
I
the
also have
bar.
a baby though.
Oh yeah.
You see him like pointing and holding up his hand, and you recognize he's basically saying 5 and pointing back over to you. And shortly afterwards, after various different nods, he comes back and he says, I have made a selection of beverages for you, and some food will be brought over very soon.
Thank you
I-
again.
He says, not at all. I trust that you'll keep yourselves from getting into trouble. And he smiles and exits the chamber.
Yeah, guys, with rumors going around that we're the strangers Alessi brought, for Alessi's sake, let's not do anything stupid. Also for our lives, but
As long as nobody starts anything with me, I won't start anything with them.
Rumors like that can work in your favor, but in a room like this, and I can't speak the language.
it's a tall order anyway. And you are very short.
Hey, size
Okay.
doesn't always matter.
Well, the elven waitress, this chickie right here, she brings over a large platter that's got what looks like pretty much an entire deer shank on it. She sits that in the middle. Then she comes back with a huge big platter that has got various different, forest berries, shrubs, all kinds of edible stuff. Most of what looks like vegetables of kind, some of which you've seen, some of which you have not. Then she returns with 5 glasses of a kind of a deep red liquid, which from the smell of it, it smells to be some kind of fermented wine or whatever. And then she also brings over 5 small wooden tankards that are about the size of a half pint, and sits them down that looks like it's clearly some kind of beer or ale or, something of that ilk.
Ooh, samples.
She smiles at you and nods. And then she just kind of like points at the glass and points at the cup and then says something that you don't understand. And then, so she's kind of like... And then without waiting to see if you acknowledged it, you just see her kind of... Then she shrugs her shoulders and turns around and walks off.
It's not customary of elves to mix the two. I'm gonna take the two. You're like, she telling us to mix them like a...
I think this
Probably
meant
not.
strong and this meant drinkable.
What? I think she means if we want more, let her know. And I'm gonna take it to start drinking anything in front of me.
Gore, I have a question. Have any of us seen deer meat?
From where you come from, no. The closest thing you guys would have ever known of was a leg of pork, of which I doubt anybody except Marigold has probably really had much of. Possibly Rush may have done as a rare treat, but the rest of you certainly not. Marigold probably grew up and at special holidays and stuff got to eat stuff like this. So
Okay,
she
so
probably...
So I am very cautiously just gonna poke the meat and be like,
All right.
it's too big for a bird.
Try it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Not
about,
pale like a
you know,
fish.
yay big around and about that long.
Play with your food, man.
I'm just,
You won't know if you like it until you try it.
but I've never seen that before. They don't exactly serve this to us on the wall.
It seems the problems here are
Well, it's
very
probably some
different to
forest
our own.
creature.
Very different to our own.
So I'm gonna take servings and put on my plate and
Yeah.
just look at it
Yes.
awkwardly.
Here's to the best meal we'll probably have in our lives.
Yeah. There you go.
Captives to the elves.
Yeah, getting arrested wasn't that bad.
Yeah, so I mean, bottom line is, you know, it's a very tender, you know, very tender joint of venison. Flavor-wise, it's very vibrantly spiced. It's got a very kind of strong nutmeggy kind of flavor to it, which is initially very surprising, especially to Marigold, because why would you do that to the meat? But clearly, as you can taste on most of the things, the elves here are very fond of hurling spices at everything. Not to the point where everything's hot, but everything is definitely very well seasoned.
Can I get a cookbook later, Gore?
Yeah, we need to
Sounds
make
interesting.
one.
I want to try it.
How we roll cookbook.
I want to glance at the people closest to our table, see if they're
Which table are you looking at? This one here, or
probably the one
because
with
a lot
the
of the
green
tables, I mean, they're all
lady
fairly
and then-
close together.
Ooh.
So which one?
I'm gonna look at the one with the lady in green since she's closest to me.
Okay, this one right here. All right. Okay. Yep. So you glance at it. So yeah, there's an elven lady that's wearing
Lady.
a very long, tight-fitting, kind of flowing gown. She has kind of a necklace around her neck that seems to be made of flowers. Next to her, right here, who apparently just leapt on her, and who knows what those two are up to now.
Hell yeah, dinner and a show.
She's got like long, flowing brown hair, a kind of a off-the-shoulder kind of dress that's cut off at the midsection, and she's got a kind of a slanted, angular skirt on that on the left leg it's halfway up her thigh, but on her right leg it's all the way down to her calf. Sitting across from them looks like probably it's an off-duty one of those elven guards. He's still wearing part of his armor. He has a long blade kind of with him, but it's taken off and laying on the table. But he's not wearing his cowl and hood. He doesn't have a shield or any of that sort of stuff.
So, we, the humans and gnomes, were pushed out of here by goblins?
Goblinoids.
Goblinoid named Gash? I forgot his name.
I wrote it down, but I wrote it in my book, and I don't have my book because I gave it away.
I've only heard that they're small, and I'm gonna look at Jash.
Well, we don't know if what he's saying is true.
I guess.
Could just be making things.
Why about it?
Well, you know how stories go sometimes, passed down from generation to generation. They get a bit enlarged, engulfed, in a sarcasm, or maybe it's like a tall tale, like a big fish story. Who knows if that's the case?
With elves, there's probably not that many generations because they live so long.
Yeah, elves seem to talk a lot though, and they love to hear themselves speak, and they love their own stories. So I don't know if I put much stock into it, to be honest.
I don't know if I'd be saying stuff like that around here. I mean, there may be one or two that speak common.
I thought
I highly doubt it.
Castian was the only one who could, besides the Lord.
Yeah, I could stand up on this table and say anything I want. Nobody would understand a word I'm saying.
But I would
Dude,
stand
you
at
don't
a table
know?
because
You don't
standing at
know.
a table is perceived as rude anywhere.
Yeah.
Get on the table, son. Go on.
Didn't say I was
Don't
gonna
try
do
to start
it.
any fights either, just...
I'm just trying to sit here and eat me meat.
Eat me meat.
Maybe.
Eat me meat.
Real.
That's all.
Make
Eat
up a
that
few
meat.
other things I'd rather be doing with the meat, but
There you go. All right. Well, I
Language
think that's a good civilized spot to leave it
Eat
tonight.
meat.
At the end of the show, or at the end of our stream, we're actually a little bit past. Twitch's twitchiness made us about 15 minutes late starting, so we made sure we still got your time in for you. But we are gonna leave it right there. Not much of a cliffhanger, but it doesn't always have to be a cliffhanger. Sometimes,
we're prisoners.
Wait,
so-
what is that?
yeah. And suddenly, all the elves whip out weapons and run towards you. Dun dun dun! And we'll leave it there. No. Well met. I'm Gorbad, the Dungeon Master here on How We Roll, as well as the author of thedmsblog.com, where you can find lots of fun and interesting articles for both Dungeon Masters and players alike. If you'd like to keep up with the show, follow us on Twitter at How We Roll. Check out our website, www.howweroll.com. And for our past campaigns and for some fun bonus content, follow us on YouTube at, you've guessed it, How We Roll. We hope to see you all again real soon. Cheers, guys.
Oh, hey, it's me, Satchmo. I play Physic here on How We Roll. I got 2 more of these to take care of, so I'm gonna cut it short. But if you want to follow me anywhere, say Twitch or Twitter, it's just Satchmo, and Satchmo just about everywhere. I'm glad you joined us tonight. I hope you come back again sometime. It stinks.
Hey everybody, Shagget here. I play a character on How We Roll. I'm not going to tell you who I play because if they die, I'm going to have to redo it. I've already done it once, never again. Follow me on Twitter at aneb_convos, and I'll see you guys on How We Roll.
And that's how air works. What a good story. And I also hope you enjoyed today's story on How We Roll. I'm Jane and I played. If you want to follow me on social media, I do have a Twitter and it is Jane on Twitch with a 0, not no. That's all I have to say, so peace suckers,
For
bye!
Roll the clip. Hello everyone, I play Jash Windstriker, a level 5 human fighter. And I really like playing him because he does really cool stuff all the time. And there you have it. You guys can follow me on Twitter at MattySweetTweet. And thank you so much for watching every Monday and Thursday. You guys are the best. I'm having a fantastic time on How We Roll so far, even though my character first ever got killed off. No big deal. No problem. We'll see you guys next time.
Hey guys, I am the Dragon Spooker, and for you and How We Roll this time, I'm playing Rush Brinkery, the Nomian engineering sorcerer. If you don't get enough with me on the show, then you can follow me on Twitter at Dragon Spooker. You can also check out my channel, which I should be streaming more in here in the future with my new rig this year, at twitch.tv/thedragonspooker. I'll see you next episode.